Jason never saw it coming. He thought he knew his life, his wife, his little world inside their cozy suburban home. But sometimes life sneaks in through the cracks, carrying surprises no one asked for. It all started on a Saturday morning. Jason was in the kitchen, sipping his coffee and scrolling through emails. Claire, his wife of 8 years, was humming softly in the living room. Their daughter, Lily, was building a tower of blocks on the floor. Everything looked perfect. That's when the phone rang. It was Claire's old friend, Vanessa. Jason hadn't spoken to her in years, and the name itself carried memories of parties, late-night talks, and college drama. Claire answered with a bright laugh. "Vanessa, it's been forever! You have to come over for dinner tonight," Claire said, her voice sparkling with genuine excitement. Jason felt a flicker of unease, but he smiled anyway. He had met Vanessa once at a college reunion. She had been bold, charming, the kind of person who could make a room lean in just to listen. Jason didn't know what to expect, but he trusted Claire. Dinner arrived, and Vanessa walked in with that same confident smile. She was as vibrant as ever, her energy filling the room instantly. Jason tried to relax, chatting politely, but Vanessa had a way of looking at him that made him uncomfortable, like she was studying him, memorizing him. Throughout the evening, she shared stories about her life, her successes, her travels. Jason listened, nodding, but a subtle tension began creeping into the conversation. Vanessa laughed a little too loudly at every small joke Jason made. She complimented him with a hint of something deeper, something he couldn't name. Claire seemed oblivious. She was thrilled to reconnect with her friend. They reminisced, laughed, and shared memories Jason barely remembered. But as the night went on, Jason noticed subtle changes. Vanessa would linger near him, asking personal questions about his work, his routine, even his marriage. At one point, Jason excused himself to the kitchen. Vanessa followed, leaning casually against the counter. "So you and Claire, huh?" she said lightly, almost teasing. "She's lucky. You seem interesting." Jason shifted uneasily. "Thanks, I guess. You two go way back." Vanessa smiled, but there was a sharp edge to it. "Yeah, back then, we shared everything. Secrets, dreams, even feelings. Funny how life changes people, isn't it?" Jason nodded, trying to shake the sudden unease. He wanted to brush it off as harmless nostalgia, but something in Vanessa's eyes made him pause. Later that night, after Vanessa had left, Jason and Claire sat on the couch. He wanted to tell Claire about the feeling gnawing at him, but he couldn't find the words. He didn't want to sound paranoid. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder. "She was amazing, wasn't she? I've missed her so much." Jason forced a smile, hugging her back. "Yeah, amazing." He went to bed that night with a restless mind. Vanessa's words, her gaze, her subtle insinuations, they kept playing in his head. He couldn't shake the thought that maybe she wasn't just here to reconnect with Claire. The next morning, Claire received a text from Vanessa. "We need to talk. It's about us and Jason." Jason read it over her shoulder. His stomach dropped. He didn't know what she meant, but the warning bells in his mind were ringing loud and clear. Something was about to change, and he had no idea how much. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more touching tales. Jason tried to act normal, but his instinct screamed otherwise. That was when the first cracks appeared. Small, subtle, but undeniable. Claire started spending more time on the phone, Vanessa's name always appearing on the screen. Their once peaceful evenings turned tense with silence and suspicion. And then, one afternoon, Jason saw something he couldn't unsee. a message on Claire's phone from Vanessa, sweet and intimate in a way that made his chest tighten. He wanted to confront Claire, to demand answers, but something held him back. The unease grew into dread. Jason realized that the life he thought he had, the marriage he thought was safe, might not survive the storm that was quietly approaching. As he stood by the window that evening, watching the sun dip behind the trees, Jason felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. And deep down, he knew Vanessa's return wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of something that could destroy everything. He didn't know it yet, but nothing would ever be the same. The air in the house felt heavier, charged with silent tension. Jason knew the first step toward unraveling their lives had already begun. And in that quiet, lingering moment, he wondered, how far would Vanessa go to change everything? The days that followed were strange. Claire seemed distracted, often checking her phone with quick glances that made Jason uneasy. She laughed less, paused more, and sometimes stared off into space, like she was somewhere else entirely. Jason tried to talk to her, but the conversations felt surface level, like brushing the edge of something deeper he couldn't reach. He wanted to ask about Vanessa, but every time he opened his mouth, words failed him. He feared the answer might hurt more than the doubt itself. One evening, Jason stayed late at the office, hoping the time apart would give him clarity. But his phone buzzed constantly with notifications. Messages from Vanessa, seemingly harmless at first, gradually became insistent. She wanted to meet, to discuss things in person. Jason's heart sank. He didn't respond, hoping Claire would tell him it was nothing. But when he came home, he found her smiling at her phone, a way she hadn't smiled at him in weeks. "Just catching up with Vanessa," she said lightly, like it was nothing. "She's been through a lot, you know. I just want to be there for her." Jason nodded, swallowing the knot in his throat. "Of course. You always do the right thing." He wanted to believe her. He really did. But Vanessa's presence was growing heavier in their lives, like a shadow no sunlight could touch. A week later, Jason came home early. He had a strange instinct that told him to check the living room before calling Claire. And there she was, Vanessa, sitting on the couch, laughing softly with Claire. The sight twisted something inside him. Vanessa's hand brushed Claire's casually. Just a touch, but loaded with familiarity. The air seemed charged with unspoken words, memories Jason didn't belong to. "Jason, you're home early," Claire said, standing quickly. "Vanessa was just telling me about her trip to Italy." Jason forced a smile, but his gut churned. "Sounds wonderful." Vanessa's eyes flicked toward him, sharp and calculating, then softened into a warm smile. "I've heard so much about you, Jason. You and Claire, you're quite the couple." Jason's stomach tightened. There was something in her tone, too knowing, too deliberate, something that wasn't just conversation. Over the next few days, Jason noticed subtle changes. Claire started dressing differently, spending more time away from home, texting in secret. Vanessa called more frequently, sometimes in the middle of the night, always leaving messages that seemed innocent but made Jason's chest ache. One Friday afternoon, Jason sat in his car outside Claire's office. He wanted to confront her, to demand truth, but the words tangled in his throat. He watched her through the window as she smiled at someone on the sidewalk. And then he saw it. Vanessa, walking beside her, laughing like they shared some private joke. Jason's vision blurred. He gripped the steering wheel, struggling to breathe. He didn't want to believe it. He wanted to tell himself it was harmless. But the seed of doubt had taken root, and he knew it would grow. That night, Jason finally spoke. "Claire, can we talk?" She looked up from the kitchen counter, her eyes wary but soft. Sure, what's wrong? It's Vanessa. I feel uneasy. She's here a lot. I just want to understand what's happening. Claire sighed, putting down her cup. Jason, you're overthinking. Vanessa and I are just reconnecting. That's all. She's a friend. Jason wanted to believe her. He really did. But the tension between them was like a silent third person in the room, growing stronger with every passing moment. He lay awake that night, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside. Something had shifted, and he couldn't ignore it. The laughter, the lingering glances, the secretive phone calls, it all pointed to something he wasn't ready to face. The next morning, a package arrived at their door. No return address, just a note inside. Some truths are easier to handle in person. Jason held it in his hands, the paper trembling slightly. He looked at Claire, who smiled faintly, unaware, or pretending to be unaware, of the storm about to hit their home. Jason's heart sank. He knew Vanessa's return was no accident. He just didn't know how far she was willing to go to unsettle everything he loved. And in that silent, tense moment, he realized one terrifying truth. The real danger wasn't just Vanessa's presence. It was how much she could change everything from the shadows. The lines of trust had started to blur, and Jason wondered if their marriage could survive the coming storm. The tension in the house was palpable, hanging like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jason felt helpless, but he also knew he couldn't sit back any longer. The following week felt like walking through fog. Jason's mind replayed every glance, every word, every subtle gesture between Claire and Vanessa. He wanted proof, but proof came at a cost, and he wasn't sure he was ready for it. One evening, he came home earlier than usual. Claire was in the kitchen, humming, but her eyes flicked toward the clock nervously. Vanessa wasn't there. Jason tried to relax, thinking maybe things would finally feel normal. But the calm didn't last. A knock at the door brought Vanessa into their living room before he even had a chance to react. She entered like she owned the space, smiling as if nothing had changed. "Hey, Jason," she said casually. "Claire's been telling me so much about you. It's nice to finally see you again." Jason forced a polite nod. There was something disarming about her, an easy charm that made confrontation feel impossible. Vanessa lingered longer than necessary. She laughed at Claire's jokes, leaned slightly closer when she spoke, and Jason could feel a subtle shift in the room. Something unspoken was happening, and he didn't like it. After dinner, Vanessa finally left, waving cheerfully. Jason and Claire sat in the quiet that followed. He could feel the tension building between them, heavier than ever. "Jason, you're being paranoid," Claire said softly, though her voice lacked conviction. "I don't know," he replied, rubbing his temples. "It's just, everything feels different. I can't explain it." Claire reached for his hand. "I promise, it's just Vanessa. Nothing more. She's an old friend." Jason wanted to believe her. He really did. But her reassurance felt fragile, like it could shatter with the slightest touch. That night, he couldn't sleep. He checked his phone and saw a message from Vanessa. "I think it's time we talk, alone." Jason's chest tightened. Alone. Why did the word feel so loaded? The next day, he followed instinct and drove to Vanessa's apartment. He needed answers, or at least a glimpse of the truth. He watched from across the street as Claire arrived, laughing, her arm brushing Vanessa's as they entered the building. Jason's heart sank. He didn't want to see betrayal, but the scene made it impossible to ignore. Inside, Jason imagined the conversation, the subtle manipulation, the seed of influence Vanessa was planting. He realized it wasn't just small gestures. It was a strategy, a careful, quiet dismantling of the life he thought he had. That evening, Jason confronted Claire. "I saw you today," he said quietly, "at Vanessa's place." Claire froze, her face a mixture of surprise and guilt. "Jason, it's not what you think. We were just catching up. Please believe me." "Catching up? You're smiling like it's a secret, Claire. And her messages, they're not just friendly." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes. I didn't mean for it to feel like that. I didn't want to hurt you." Jason wanted to hold her, to believe her, but the doubt had rooted itself too deeply. "It's already hurting, Claire. I can feel it. I don't know if we can go back to how it was." Claire looked down, her hands trembling. I want to. I love you, Jason. But Vanessa, she's different now. I didn't expect her to." Jason didn't let her finish. His mind raced with possibilities, with fears, with anger. He realized the problem wasn't just Vanessa. It was how much Claire allowed her to slip back into their lives. Days passed with the weight of silence between them. Jason tried to focus on work, on Lily, on anything to distract himself. But every phone buzz, every knock at the door, every laugh he heard outside felt like a reminder that their lives were no longer their own. Then one evening, Jason received an anonymous email. No name, no address, just one sentence. "She's not your friend anymore." He showed it to Claire. Her face paled. "Jason, how did you—" "I don't know," he admitted, "but someone's trying to warn us, or maybe expose something." They sat in tense silence, the gravity of the situation settling over them. Jason realized the real challenge wasn't just Vanessa. It was whether their marriage could survive the betrayals slowly creeping in. For the first time, he began to consider that love alone might not be enough. Trust had to be rebuilt, boundaries enforced, and some truths faced head-on. As Jason lay awake that night, he made a silent vow. He wouldn't let their marriage crumble without a fight, but deep down, he knew the fight wouldn't be simple. And somewhere in the shadows, Vanessa's smile lingered in his mind, a reminder that the storm had only just begun. Jason decided he couldn't wait any longer. He needed clarity, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. He started keeping track. Every call, every message, every sudden meeting. Vanessa's presence wasn't just frequent. It was calculated, precise, as if she was orchestrating something behind the scenes. One evening, he came home to find Claire unusually quiet. She was sitting on the couch, staring at her phone. "Claire?" he asked softly. She jumped slightly, hiding the screen. "Nothing, just work stuff." Jason didn't believe her. He had learned to read the silences, the subtle evasions, the tiny gestures that told the real story. Later that night, Jason heard the unmistakable ping of a text message. He waited until Claire had gone to bed, then glanced at her phone, locked as usual. His hands clenched in frustration. He wanted answers, but he didn't want to destroy what little trust remained. The next morning, he ran into Vanessa at the grocery store. She smiled, casually leaning against a cart. "Jason, what a surprise," she said, her tone warm, friendly, but there was an edge beneath it. He nodded politely, forcing himself to stay calm. "Vanessa, hi." She glanced around before speaking. "You know, I've always respected you. But sometimes, life, it asks you to step aside, or it changes the rules entirely." Jason's stomach sank. There it was, the veiled warning, the subtle manipulation. She wasn't here for friendship. She was here for something else entirely. By the end of that week, tension at home had reached its peak. Claire was distant, distracted, and whenever Vanessa called, she seemed lighter, happier, as if carrying a secret Jason wasn't allowed to know. Jason realized he had two choices: confront Vanessa directly, risking everything, or wait and watch, hoping for a mistake. He chose the confrontation. That evening, Jason showed up at Vanessa's apartment unannounced. She opened the door with a smile, as if she had been expecting him. "Jason, you're brave," she said, stepping aside to let him in. He tried to stay composed. "Why are you doing this, Vanessa? Why come back and meddle in our lives?" Vanessa's smile didn't falter. "Meddle? No, Jason. I'm giving Claire a chance to remember who she really is. And maybe you need a wake-up call. Sometimes people get too comfortable, too safe. Life needs a little chaos to remind you what matters." Jason's heart pounded. Her words weren't just manipulation, they were an accusation wrapped in charm. She was saying he wasn't enough, that their marriage could be shaken so easily. "I'm not going anywhere," he said firmly. "Claire and we built something real. You can't just walk in and—" Vanessa cut him off gently. "I'm not walking in, Jason. I'm walking alongside her. The rest is up to her." Jason left that night feeling hollow, unsure of what he had just witnessed. Vanessa had shifted the battlefield without firing a single shot. She had stirred doubt, planted unease, and left him questioning himself, Claire, and everything in between. Back home, Jason confronted Claire again. "She's not just your friend, is she? She's trying to change us, to make you question us." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "Jason, I don't know. I've never felt this way before. Vanessa, she reminded me of things I'd forgotten. Dreams, ambitions, a part of me I buried. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to betray you." Jason's chest tightened. "Then what do we do? How do we fix this?" Claire looked at him, her gaze soft but resolute. "We have to decide if our love is stronger than the fear she's put between us. If it is, we fight for it. If not, then maybe it's already over." Jason realized in that moment that the real battle wasn't with Vanessa. It was with fear, doubt, and the fragile trust between him and Claire. He had to act wisely, with patience and understanding, if he wanted to save what he loved. The next morning, Jason watched Claire leave for work. He knew Vanessa would be waiting. He also knew that the coming days would test every ounce of his heart, patience, and determination. And somewhere deep inside, Jason understood a chilling truth. The storm wasn't just outside their door. It was already inside their hearts, reshaping them in ways neither of them could predict. The lines between love, loyalty, and desire had blurred, and when the next choice came, it would decide everything. The weekend arrived, and with it, an uneasy calm. Jason spent hours thinking, weighing every conversation, every glance, every message that had passed between Claire and Vanessa. He knew the final confrontation couldn't wait any longer. That evening, he found Claire in the living room, Lily asleep in her room. Claire's eyes softened when she saw him, but Jason could see the tension lingering. "Claire, we need to talk. Honestly, completely," he said, his voice steady but firm. Claire nodded. "I know. I've been dreading this too. I don't want to hurt you, Jason. I really don't." Jason took a deep breath. "I know you didn't. But Vanessa, she's not just a friend. She's changing the way we feel about each other, even if we don't realize it. We need boundaries. We need honesty." Claire swallowed hard. You're right. I've felt confused. She reminded me of parts of myself I'd hidden, but I never meant to let it interfere with us. Jason reached for her hand. Then let's be honest. No secrets, no distractions. Just us and what we've built together. Vanessa can't come between us if we don't let her. Claire nodded, tears brimming. I want that too. I love you, Jason, and I don't want to lose what we have. The next day, Claire sent Vanessa a message, firm but polite. She explained that their friendship needed boundaries, that Jason and she were focusing on their marriage. Vanessa's response was surprisingly calm, almost congratulatory. I guess I underestimated you both, Vanessa wrote. Sometimes people need reminders of what matters most. You've got this. Jason felt a weight lift off his shoulders. The tension that had haunted him for weeks began to ease, replaced by cautious hope. That evening, Claire and Jason sat together on the porch, watching Lily play in the yard. The sky was painted in shades of gold and pink, a quiet, reassuring reminder that life could be beautiful even after storms. Do you think it's really over? Claire asked softly. Jason smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It's not about over. It's about what we choose from now on. We fought through this, Claire, and we'll keep choosing each other. Claire leaned against him, a sense of peace settling between them. The shadows of doubt and betrayal had been confronted, and though they couldn't erase the tension completely, they had strengthened the foundation of their love. A week later, Vanessa left town for a new project. Her presence would linger in memory, but she no longer held power over their lives. Jason and Claire were free to rebuild trust, slowly, deliberately, together. Sitting on the couch that night, Jason reflected on the chaos of the past weeks. The experience had tested their marriage in ways neither could have imagined, but it had also revealed the depth of their love and the resilience of their bond. Claire rested her head on his shoulder. I think we're stronger now, she whispered. Jason nodded, holding her close. Yes, stronger, and nothing will break us again, not even shadows from the past. Outside, the world moved quietly, but inside, Jason felt a renewed sense of hope. They had faced jealousy, manipulation, and doubt, and had come through together. Sometimes, he realized, storms are necessary. They strip away illusions, reveal truths, and remind you what really matters. And for Jason and Claire, the storm had shown that love, trust, and commitment could survive even the most challenging tests. As they sat in the warm glow of the living room, hand in hand, Jason knew one thing for certain. Life would always bring unexpected challenges, but their love was no longer fragile. It had been tested, and it had endured. And in that quiet, contented moment, Jason finally allowed himself to breathe, knowing that the past's shadows had been faced, the lessons learned, and the future reclaimed. The storm was over, the marriage survived, and for the first time in weeks, Jason felt the kind of peace he hadn't known was possible.